His name is Lewis Hamilton, and there's a million things he hasn't done. But yeah, buying expensive cars isn't one of them. Representing the current team that Hamilton races for, the most expensive supercar in his collection is far and away the Mercedes AMG ONE. For $2.72 million, Lewis Hamilton took home this beauty of a vehicle that I'm sure he has never gone over the speed limit in. Being the superb racer that he is, it makes sense that Lewis would take home one of these rare models, specifically designed to bring the technology of Formula One cars to the streets. The AMG ONE is a hybrid vehicle with an engine that produces over 1,000 horsepower, giving it a maximum speed of over 350 kilometers per hour. The body of the car borrows directly from the designs of Formula One racers, including open vents that allow for maximum aerodynamic performance. Only 275 models of this vehicle were planned to be made, and each one was pre-sold before it was produced. But of course, Mercedes would make sure their #1 racer was able to call dibs on at least one. Hamilton, in fact, was even in a Mercedes ad for the AMG ONE before it was produced, ensuring to make the connection to the racing phenom to highlight the performance of the rare vehicle. If you're Roger Federer, you want a tennis racket named after you. If you're Barry Bonds, perhaps a baseball bat. And if you're Lewis Hamilton, you definitely want a high-speed, high-performance rare supercar to bear your initials. And that is exactly what Pagani did for the Formula One superstar, with the Pagani Zonda 760 LH, with the LH of course standing for Lewis Hamilton. While this car is one of the most rare that Hamilton owns, with a total of 140 models of the two-seated speedster being made, and many of those basically being development mules, it might be a fair guess that Hamilton isn't the biggest fan of his $2.6 million purchase. He once stated that the 760 horsepower engine-fueled Pagani actually drives terribly. Granted, the man's standards are high given that his job is to drive some of the most well-handling vehicles made in history, but still, that's quite a statement about a car named after you. That being said, Hamilton recently stated that he rarely drives any of his more expensive exotic cars anymore, turning them into some of the most expensive garage decor in the world. While Hamilton drives for the team Mercedes, he's no stranger to helping out the competition, at least off the racetrack. Lewis Hamilton owns a bevy of Ferraris, with 3 of his most expensive being the LaFerrari Aperta, the Ferrari 599 SA Aperta, and the Ferrari LaFerrari. The rare LaFerrari Aperta has a 6.3-liter naturally aspirated hybrid V12 engine under the hood, which can produce power up to 950 horsepower. This makes it an incredibly fast, lightweight vehicle. On top of that, the models made were extremely limited. Only 499 models were made, with a special 500th model famously being sold in an auction for a cool $10 million. Now, while the identity of the buyer of that $10 million vehicle was not disclosed, we are pretty sure it wasn't Lewis Hamilton. It is reported that his LaFerrari Aperta was purchased with a much more reasonable price of $2.2 million. The LaFerrari Aperta has an open design with a 2-seat cockpit, and is said to maintain all the recognizable body features of the Ferrari, but brought into the future. His second Ferrari is the Ferrari 599 SA Aperta. While this Ferrari is much harder to find given that only 80 models were made, making it the most rare Ferrari ever, its design makes it much cheaper, which is wild to say when Lewis Hamilton purchased his for the incredibly cheap price of $1.7 million. Ferrari specifically planned to make 80 models, in order to celebrate Pininfarina's 80th anniversary. The SA Aperta is the Ferrari model that is closer to the ground and with a low-wind screen that makes it one of the most aerodynamic supercars ever built. Though there were only 80 models made, each of those 80 is extremely unique. There are several combinations of trim and color, as well as a multitude of materials that make up the interior of each one. The final extremely expensive Ferrari in Hamilton's collection is the Ferrari LaFerrari. While the LaFerrari Aperta goes for over $2 million, this original 2013 model of the LaFerrari goes for $1.4 million, which is the price that the world-famous racer paid for his. The design of the LaFerrari is one of Ferrari's most innovative, which is really something when you think about the Ferrari brand. While Hamilton claims to really only drive his Mercedes around from time to time, I wouldn't be surprised if he threw some shades and a disguise on so no one sees him cruising around in his competition's supercars. While Hamilton's car collection is nowhere near short of newer exotic vehicles, there are also 1 or 2 classics that can be found hauled up in his garage. Lewis Hamilton owns 2 models of rare Fords. His first, produced in 1966, has a slick black finish that makes it look like it was made yesterday. He spent $2.1 million for his classic 1966 Shelby Cobra. However, the longer he holds onto it, the more it may prove to be worth. The last 66 Shelby Cobra just sold at auction for $5.5 million. The open-top vehicle would make even the lug bug jealous due to its revolutionary power and aerodynamic design. Hamilton actually owns a second model, which was produced just 1 year later. Though, this one just so happens to be a replica of the 1967 Shelby Mustang GT500. The 67 Shelby Mustang proves what a difference a year can make, given that it knocked an entire $1 million off the price, meaning that Hamilton purchased the classic Mustang for $1.1 million. So by that logic, I should be able to find a 68 Shelby somewhere for only $0.1 million, right? I mean, I still couldn't afford that, but that's definitely a much more attainable goal than the behemoths Hamilton has on display in his garage. While Lewis Hamilton currently drives for Mercedes, from 2007 to 2012 his racing career lied with that of McLaren. While he wound up switching teams, I would guess that there were no hard feelings, given Hamilton's love for his McLaren P1. A follow-up to the McLaren F1, the P1 is an extremely sporty vehicle. The designer believes the focus during the creation was aerodynamic performance, while also attempting to make it both dramatic and beautiful. And boy did he succeed. There are no fancy ornaments to be found on the body of the McLaren P1, as every inch of the vehicle was intentionally designed to reach peak performance. Lewis Hamilton paid an easy-breezy $1.2 million for this incredibly well-put-together vehicle with a powerful 3.8-liter twin-turbocharged V8 engine, which can give output of 903 horsepower. That being said, while this is a favorite of his, the rest of his collection shows where his true loyalties lie. Including the aforementioned AMG ONE, Hamilton's car collection is stocked full of Mercedes. Some of his more expensive models include the AMG G63 6x6, the Mercedes-Benz AMG GTR, and the Mercedes-Maybach S600. Starting with the Mercedes AMG G63 6x6, Hamilton dropped $615,000 for this beauty. I know what you're thinking, a car under $1 million? Yes, folks, they do in fact exist in the garages of the world's wealthiest. That being said, over $600K is nothing to sneeze at, and the AMG G63 makes every dollar worthwhile. The G63 is a 6-wheeled single-unit truck, highly efficient in off-road settings due to its 6-wheel drive. The vehicle was actually developed for the Australian Army way back in 2007, but has since become a luxury vehicle collector's dream. Personally, I don't think any car collection is complete until there is a tank in it, but I suppose the G63 comes pretty close. Hamilton also has a Mercedes-Benz AMG GTR in his collection. This vehicle cost him $162,000 and has a powerful 4-liter twin-turbocharged V8 engine. While this is certainly not a rare piece of Hamilton's collection, it's a high-performing, reliable vehicle with a sleek design that shows real brand loyalty to his racing team. Finally, while there are definitely other vehicles that make up Hamilton's $17 million car collection, the last vehicle is the Mercedes-Maybach S600. This vehicle has a 6-liter twin-turbo V12 engine, guaranteeing its high performance. That plus its luxurious feel and design make it well worth the $173,000 starting price that Hamilton paid. Lewis Hamilton is one of the greatest Formula One racers in the world, which tells me that he knows the value of a great car when he sees one. He was an avid remote control car racer as a kid and even told McLaren to sign him when he was just 13. In 2007, they finally listened when Hamilton signed for nearly $50 million.